We've just spoken to Amy Cockayne just before this interview, and when she was talking about where she started in rugby, we sort of came to the conclusion that she was born to compete because she came from a very competitive family. I believe your family's quite competitive as well. Your brother used to play for the Scottish Exiles, and yeah, do you say you were also someone who's born to compete?
I feel like when you're the youngest of 7 siblings, you've got to kind of fight for every inch. So I guess you could say that. Always was quite a competitive kid. Wanted to try and one up all my siblings. I was always the smallest. Being the youngest, you're always got to, I don't know, there's always that competitive edge with your siblings, isn't there? So, yeah, I guess so.
You have played rugby your whole life. You started at the age of 5 years old.
Yeah.
Up to the point where you go to Loughborough and you begin at Lightning. What were your highlights from your sort of junior career in rugby?
Gosh. So obviously I kind of grew up playing rugby in the English pathway, so kind of like took the natural progression through that in terms of like playing for Leicestershire and Midlands and TDG under 20s, so kind of like took that kind of natural stepping stone process living in this country until obviously I made the choice to play for Scotland. So that's like playing for Scotland was pretty much the best thing that I've ever made the decision to do. So,
brilliant. Were there any other sports that you enjoyed growing up?
I was always like the sporty kid at school. I can't say I was good at them all, but I always tried. Loved PE. Did all the extracurricular sports. We didn't do rugby at my school, so played netball, hockey. All of the kind of classic sports that you play at school. Tried my hand at them all, wasn't very good at any of them, but just loved being active and doing sport. But rugby was always kind of what I did outside of school. So, I did like athletics and stuff like that. Was very lucky that my parents would travel up and down the country to take me to pretty much any extracurricular thing I wanted to do. So very lucky in that aspect.
Obviously you touched on it there, but obviously you found your way to rugby, and when we announced your signing for Tigers, you described yourself as a rugby nose. Was there any particular reason for that?
I don't switch off very easily. I think about rugby probably 24 hours of the day. Always just thinking about rugby, thinking about what I could be better at, reviewing things, always want to be better, always want to help people around me be better. I'm very much of the belief that if I'm the best version of myself, then that helps people around me and the team to be kind of the best that they can be as well. So just in that kind of context, I'm always striving to be better for myself and for everyone else.
Are you someone who loves to be coached, in that you're talking the coach's ear off? You always say that you're thinking about rugby all the time. Are you someone who's always looking for that extra improvement, always looking for extra sessions?
Yeah, probably pretty highly strung, probably quite annoying. Only been here 3 weeks. I can tell they've had enough of me already. I'm very much always thinking about it, always thinking of questions that I can ask, and I feel like if I'm always thinking of questions that maybe other people haven't thought of, that it kind of pushes coaches as well to kind of think, not necessarily maybe outside the box. I don't know, if I'm asking some weird and wonderful questions about stuff and they're like, oh yeah, okay, that's actually a pretty good concept or a good thought there. I don't know whether it actually comes across that way or not, but I'm quite the question asker.
Were there any particular idols that you looked up to, not even just in rugby, but just across the sporting world that stick out to you?
I always loved watching sport growing up. Always watched rugby with my family. Obviously a huge Scotland fan. I'm trying to think, like in particular, like loved Castro. I was a huge Tigers fan, had a season ticket all my childhood. So yeah, I loved watching Castro. He was my fave.
Growing up as a Tigers fan, as you just said, are there any particular highlights of coming down to Mattioli Woods Welford Road that you particularly remember that stand out to you?
Like, I was there every weekend, to be honest. Me and my sister, or my family, it was always like a big family affair. Me and my sister had a season ticket, so we'd come down together every weekend. And it was like always super exciting when the rest of the family would come down as well. It was like just something that we all kind of shared together. In terms of like particular memory, I'm trying to think. Probably not. I was really quite young, but I just loved it. Like, loved the environment.
The whole atmosphere.
Yeah, loved the camaraderie and like getting to know people that always sit around you, especially with your season ticket, and try and like make sure you're with the same people next year, that kind of thing.
Were you up in the top of the yodel stand, or were you screaming from the terraces of the Crumbie? What were you?
I was when it was the cat stand.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that back in the day. So yeah, I was up in the top of the cat stand.
And then you've touched on Marcel Castro Giovanni, but are there any other Tigers players that stand out to you that you really enjoyed while you were growing up?
Yeah, like Jono. Loved all the Tuolangis, especially Alex. I just loved them all. I was like that kid with. Do you remember they used to do the books that had all the pictures in them?
Yeah.
I was that kid with that book that would try and get pictures with everyone and get them to sign it. I was a bit of a nose with them all. Ben Youngs even, yeah.
So you went to Loughborough, and you were also your career really formed at the dawn of Premiership Women's Rugby, really. Obviously, then the Premier 15s, now Premiership Women's Rugby. You're Loughborough Lightning number 1.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
How was it being swept up in such changing times for women's rugby? Because you had a team like Lichfield, which went from having, Mo Hunn and Sarah Hunter and the young Amy Cockayne and stuff, to suddenly there were all these big, nearly professional teams across the country. How was it being caught up in all of that?
Overwhelming. Really cool. I was obviously like little 18-year-old me, very kind of shy and timid. I actually remember like the weekend of our first game we played against Worcester. Before the team came out, I messaged the coach and was like, if I'm not in the team this weekend, can I go and play for Loughborough Town, just get some game time? And as it transpired, I was starting. And it was just like, it was a whole whirlwind, because I just never imagined that I would have been like kind of playing that weekend or starting for a Premiership team at that age. So I was probably like quite lacking in confidence, which I think is quite natural at that age. But yeah, just very much like it kind of changed what I thought I could achieve in my career as well. Like, obviously I had aspirations of like playing for my country, but like they came around much quicker than I kind of anticipated. And yeah, just like the kind of learning curve of having like amazing athletes around you, like sons, etc., that kind of definitely had a big impact on shaping my career, which I think I definitely have taken a lot away from being coached by someone like her in terms of like attention to detail, especially at set piece time. And yeah, like as you say, like it was a really big step forward in the women's game. And yeah, it was obviously super proud to be part of that. And yeah, I've loved seeing kind of our sport go from strength to strength over the last few years.
If you could give yourself one piece of advice, when you first made your debut, not even expecting to start, like you say, quite quiet, what would you say to yourself?
Like just kind of like taking the moment. I think I was very kind of swept up in this like stress of trying to be perfect and trying to, because I was a hooker back then as well. All I would think about was like line outs and throwing in at the line out, and I think that overtook the enjoyment of the moment. Always thinking about, oh, what could go wrong, instead of actually just be like, well, if you do one thing wrong, you've got 1,000 of the moments to make up for it in a game. So yeah, definitely kind of like just really like take a step back and enjoy the moment of being in the position that you're in.
Now you're preparing for your 6th, 7th season at the top level.
7th, I think, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, not just you as an individual, but I mean, women's rugby as a whole. How different is it preparing, for your 7th season as opposed to that first season?
I think I expect a lot more from myself and people around me, because I now know what to expect, whereas back then I was just along for the ride. I didn't really know what I was doing. I think the difference between me now and then is kind of like the expectation and kind of like trying to uphold standards that I would like to kind of encourage other people to set as well. Just like the media presence around it is wild as well. It was really cool, like obviously the shirt launches coming out, the kit launches coming out, they were so cool, and like seeing the men and women's team as a combination for that was super cool, something that I didn't necessarily think I would see, like a collab between a men and women's team in Tigers colours, so that's really cool.
Bro, and then as a player, how do you believe you've evolved over your 7 seasons at the top level? It's been a steep learning curve. I've done a lot of learning, a lot of developing, like physically and mentally, to kind of expect more from myself and people around me, not kind of accepting if I'm like not like doing well enough, pull my socks up, get on with it kind of thing. Sorry, could you remember what the question was? How would you compare yourself as a player in terms of then to now? But I mean, in terms of like skills and stuff like that on the pitch, do you feel you're obviously you've gone from being a hooker to a prop? Do you feel you're more stronger, happier to I don't know? Definitely feel like I've kind of like developed physically, like stronger than I was 7 years ago when I was just a wee kid, really. In terms of like player, I think I've kind of grown into my own player in terms of I know what I'm good at. I know like what I can offer for a team. I don't try and like spread myself so thinly anymore in terms of trying to be good at every skill possible. It's like I know what I'm good at, and there's always a chance to develop, but it's really knowing your super strengths and what you can offer to a team, and I feel like that then kind of grounds you a little bit, and as long as you're kind of doing what you know that you offer really well, then you're going to be of benefit. Talk me through the decision to leave Loughborough and then take up this new adventure at Leicester Tigers.
So obviously I loved my time at Loughborough. I made some very, very good friends there. So leaving the people wasn't easy, but I was really excited for a new journey with new people. Like I think it gives me the opportunity to kind of re-establish myself from being an 18-year-old kid really to like a more senior player, and I like to think that I can have a little bit more of an impact here. In terms of making the decision, it was actually quite an easy decision for me to represent Tigers. I've been a Tigers supporter forever, and it's always been a dream as a wee kid to play for Tigers, and I was always told like they don't have a women's team, are we ever going to see a Tigers team? We never knew at that point until just a couple of years ago. So when obviously I was contacted to give me this opportunity, I think it was a pretty easy decision, that it's fulfilling a wee girl's dream really, isn't it?
That's brilliant. How has pre-season been going so far? You're 3 weeks in now. How have the group been and how have the sessions been?
Yeah, really enjoying it. I feel like we're all pushing each other, to, like physically, mentally, on pitch, off pitch with S&C. I really enjoyed it, enjoying getting to know like new people, like learning, like seeing things from a different group of coaches like outlook on rugby as well, which is cool. I get to like see it, it's like a fresh outlook, which is really fun. When you've been somewhere for 6 years, I think having like a different, fresh like set of eyes on you, like everything's kind of a blank canvas, I think that's really exciting. So I'm just excited to kick on and get into the season. Yeah, I've been loving it so far.
Brilliant. How has it been? You said that you came to Tigers not just because you're such a massive fan of the club, but also to take an almost a different role in your career now that you have more experience. We've got a lot of young props at the club, people like Churchy Knight. How does it feel stepping into more of a leadership role, and with that experience, how has that experience been so far?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Like I think Churchy's great, and like the younger girls that we've got here, there's so much such budding young players that are so keen to learn. I think that's what's exciting, is like there's they just want to soak up all the information that you give them, which is really fun. Like completely different for me. I've never been necessarily that person that can like give feedback, because I'm usually the one on the receiving end of the feedback when I've been at previous clubs. So just to try and kind of like impart the knowledge that kind of I've learnt over my years to someone that like wants to learn and wants to listen. I've really enjoyed that kind of dynamic so far. Yeah, it's been cool.
Brilliant. It's a Saturday afternoon. The rugby's on. You're at home on the sofa. Are you a tea and a biscuit kind of girl, or what kind of snack and drink would you go for?
A coffee gal. Yeah, I'm not a tea gal.
Ah, yes, of course. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm definitely a coffee girl. If I've got a good coffee machine, then I'll have a flat white. If not, then a black Americano. Always partial to a biscuit though.
Nice. Any particular favourite? Amy was just telling us about Yorkshire Tea have their own biscuits.
Bullshit. Yeah, that doesn't shock me. Trying to think. I love a bourbon or a custard cream, controversially. They're not really a dunking.
Oh yeah.
They're not really a dunker. I'm not sure I'm really much of a dunking girl, to be honest. I prefer to have a sip and then.
I suppose.
Yeah, like a chaser.
It's white coffee. It's a yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to be finding crumbs at the bottom of your coffee.
Yeah, very true. So, you made your debut for Scotland, and it's quite an odd situation because you're so excited and you play Spain and it's brilliant and you score a try on your debut and it's amazing, but it's January 2020 and the world's about to go into lockdown. Yeah. How was that whole experience?
Kind of crazy. Yeah, we had a bit of a whirlwind kind of time over the first bit of that. So obviously got my first cap and then went straight into my first Six Nations campaign. Played Ireland away and then was going to play England at home at Scotstoun at the time, and then there was a storm, so then our game got postponed until the next day. I had my family on the way up to Scotland, I had to give them a call. They were halfway up, I was like, guys, you're gonna have to turn around, like the game's not happening today. So that ended up being played behind closed doors at Murrayfield, so it was really cool to play in the bowl. And yeah, so I ended up playing that, and then the next week away in Italy, and then wake up in the morning, get a call on our hotel phone, me and my roommate Maz. I was like, I'm not answering it, you answer it. She was like, I'm not answering it. So ended up, it was the physio who was like, you need to come to a meeting. We were like, what the hell? It's like 7 a.m. Ended up going down. Some people have been watching the news, obviously this virus. had shut down Milan, so we had to get on our bikes. They were like, okay, your flight's in 2 hours time. I was like, what? I've not packed anything. Had to get to the airport, finally got back, and then it was like that crazy thing happened, and then we were into camp the next week, and then
because everything in the UK,
because everything in the UK was fine, and then like it was kind of like this hush situation of someone in the team might have it. Oh, what's happening? And then a group of us got called into a meeting, and it was like, okay, so you're close contacts, so you're going to have to go into isolation. At this point, we didn't really know what this meant. We didn't know what COVID was, didn't know what it meant to be a close contact. It was a bit of a wild time. I was like, is there something wrong with me? I've just joined this team, and pretty much every game we've played so far has gone down the Swanee. I was like, am I the problem? But yeah, no, it was a bit crazy. But I can't believe how long ago that was now. And when I think back on it, I can't believe how short a time I'd been in the squad for. Because it was only a few months, but I felt like I'd been there for years.
Yeah, three years and about 5 or 6 months.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a whirlwind time. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of like different people having different views on the situation, but like as a team I think we kind of stuck together really well, and like we had weekly Zoom calls. Jade Conkle is a PT, so she was taking Zoom calls with us every week and putting us through some of the worst sessions I've ever done in my life.
In your own backyard.
Yeah, there was no escape. It was just, you could see the screen of people on Zoom, and it was like people were just disappearing. And at the end of it, there was like 10 of us, not even 10 left, and I was like, I'm sure people can't have this much to be doing. We're all stuck indoors. So, they were horrendous, but it was a good thing to keep doing as a team through that time. But yeah, it was a bit of a crazy time, wasn't it?
It was very strange. But I mean, to take you back to your debut, I mean, how proud were you to run out for your country and score a try on debut? It must have been amazing.
It's up there with one of the best experiences and like one of my best memories. To run out with that team as well. Like some people who at the time I didn't particularly know very well, but were like welcomed me with open arms, and it didn't feel like I was playing with people I didn't know. It felt like I was playing with like people I'd known for years. It was honestly amazing experience, and like since joining Scotland I have never looked back.
Speaking of Scotland, it's an incredibly exciting time for Scottish women's rugby, not just because of the incredible young players that you've got coming through, 4 of whom obviously and yourself we have here at Leicester Tigers in Ellis Martin, Fran McGee, Eva Donaldson and Evie Wills, but also the incoming professional contracts which have begun. I mean, how exciting is it right now to be a part of it?
It's amazing. Like I wasn't sure that we would kind of see professionalism in Scotland through my kind of playing career, but the kind of like exponential increase in kind of professionalism and like what they're willing to kind of back us with has like been amazing to see, and like I honestly feel so very honoured to kind of be part of that like squad that that they've given us the opportunity for this to be our job, I never really thought I would have the honour of saying that I'm a professional rugby player, but obviously it's very, very exciting. It's pretty cool.
Very cool. How has it been? Obviously, it's always been a little bit easier playing with international teammates at a club level as well. There was a strong Scottish contingent at Lightning too. Do you feel like you've become a sort of group within a group at Tigers? Do you feel like you naturally come together since like Evie and Ellis have been around?
The Scots. We can't stay away from each other, can we? I think naturally there's people that you gravitate towards in a team, but I'm also very lucky that here I've got some of my best friends from college and university in Amy Ralph, Abby Gordon, people like that. I feel like I'm I've got quite a diverse group of people that I can hang around with here. yeah, I've got some of my best friends here, which obviously made the move slightly easier. But yeah, I think I'm not going to say that we're cliquey, because we're not, but we do enjoy spending time together.
Just to briefly go on to the Scottish men's team, are they making it out of the group of death in the World Cup?
I back them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. It's only France and Ireland.
Yeah. Light work.
Easy peasy. Do you have a particular proudest moment representing your country?
Being part of the squad that qualified for our first World Cup in 12 years, like having seen kind of, and spoken to a lot of girls about kind of what it meant to them, that especially like your girls that have been in the squad for so many years that have just fallen short of that qualification, and then to kind of be able to pull on the shirt with them and kind of, I'm not going to say right wrongs, but kind of achieve something that had been such a huge common goal for players past and present, was like a really emotional time, like good emotions and like elation. It was an amazing time to finally kind of put to bed that deadlock of us not being on the international stage, where we fully deserve to be, and yeah, so that was like an amazing experience, both the final qualification game against Colombia and the qualification tournament in Italy when we beat Spain and Ireland. Those were some of my fondest memories.
Brilliant. And then similarly,
and obviously the World Cup as well.
Of course.
Yeah.
Similarly, do you have any particular highlight from your time in the Premier 15s, now Premiership Women's Rugby, that stand out to you?
When we played with Lightning, we played a quarter-final or semi-final game. I'm trying to think which one it was. It was a playoff game of some form. We played against Harlequins at the Stoop. Even though we narrowly lost out that game, I still think it was like one of my favourite games. Like, it was so high tempoed, it was so physical. It was like a really good, what's the word I'm looking for? Like showing, or I can't think of the word.
Performance.
Yeah, like to show off how good women's rugby can be. Yeah, and I remember speaking to the analyst and the sports scientist afterwards, and he was saying how like the GPS data was through the roof, that like our high-speed meters and stuff were above that of like international games. And yeah, it was a really cool game. As I say, obviously we just narrowly missed out, but in terms of like being involved in that game, and yeah, it was a really cool game of rugby. But yeah, have quite a few fun highlights through the years. And then
how excited are you to run out for the first time at Mattioli Woods Welford Road?
I am buzzing. Yeah, I've spoken to some of the girls who obviously had the honour of doing so last year, and I was a big fangirl last year. I came down to a lot of the games, came to support the girls. So yeah, super excited. Yeah, buzzing to run out with the music.
And then obviously as well, Leicester Tigers obviously has a lot of Leicester Tigers fans have fond memories of the ABC club and a very famous front row. So how excited are you to be joining those ranks?
Oh, incredible. Like, I think the smile says it all. Yeah, I've spent my childhood at Mattioli Woods Welford Road, and I'm not going to say in the bar, but obviously in supervision in the bar.
The bar area.
Yeah. So yeah, it has like such a wealth of history, and yeah, to be joining that is honestly an incredible honour.
Perfect. That's brilliant. Thank you very much.